We've been talking about the Lions and bringing in Teddy Bridgewater yesterday. Had a chance to meet face-to-face with the staff. And I want to play that Dan Campbell cut again, if you don't mind, Greg, because I think this is not the type of soundbite that I would expect a coach to give after a free agent came to visit. It seems like he offers up not a ton of information, but more information than I expected. I mean, the fact that he says, if we can add a guy like Teddy and bring competition to the room, I'm all for it. That's more information than you ever hear about a free agent stopping in and maybe still making other visits with other teams. I mean, it sounds like the Lions really would like to have him here. I don't know if there was no caveat there, like at the right price, nothing like that. And look, let's face it. The best case scenario is that your backup quarterback never plays because that means that the starting quarterback is healthy. But I think I feel a lot better about the Lions situation. This is the year we think they're going to be a playoff team, win the division, right? That you'd like to protect the investment. The investment is the team and the team's chances of making it to the playoffs. We spoke briefly yesterday about who's the most important non-quarterback to the Detroit Lions. We've got a bunch of different responses. I think it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. But if you do say quarterback, then if they bring in Teddy Bridgewater signed, he might be that guy because you need to have someone that's really capable as the backup. And we don't know about Nate Sudfeld. Fans don't know. I don't know. Media doesn't know. Because Nate Sudfeld hasn't been pushed into duty with the Lions for an extended time. We don't know. And they're gauging it based on his knowledge of the playbook and saying that he's got such a good grasp of it. And this is back in the spring. They said they feel better about him that he made some strides in the spring. Well, you have some mini camp workouts, and I guess you can glean something from that. And now here we are a couple days in a training camp, and you're gleaning something more in that. And it sounds like they'd like to go get Teddy Bridgewater. No offense to Nate Sudfeld. And it was interesting to hear Dan Campbell say, look, we talked to Nate. We were up front with Nate about it. He's on board. He knows. We kept him abreast. So it's just, we'll see where this goes. But is this a move that you think the Lions absolutely have to make? That they have to improve the backup quarterback situation? 248-539-9797. Stan is next up here, 97 on the ticket. Hey, Stan.
Hey, how you doing?
All right.
By all means, yes, because if something happens to Jared, you can kiss the season goodbye based on the backups that we've had in the past 2-3 years. I mean, they were toast. I mean, if you can add Teddy and let him do the same thing he did for New Orleans, win 5, 6 games when Peyton Manning was out, by all means, that's the number one priority. Because without a quarterback, you don't win anything.
Yeah, it's funny because you go back a few months ago and there was no question, like we need to upgrade that position. And here we are getting on the eve of training camp and you kind of forget about it. And, teams have signed the players they were going to sign in free agency. You still have a bunch of money left over and you still haven't made that decision on what's going to happen with a backup quarterback. You did bring him in earlier. Now you're bringing him in again. It still makes sense.
Oh, yes. And then if you can add to the defense, a defensive lineman afterwards, sure. But number one, quarterback, always. Because if you can't score touchdowns and run plays, you can't win.
Yeah, and thanks for the call, Stan. Dan Campbell said that they feel like with Nate Sudfeld as a backup, that he's a guy that's going to at least get you in the right play. That he knows the playbook well enough. And that's the basic knowledge you have to have as a backup quarterback. Can't be lost out there, and they say that he's not. If anything ever were to happen to Jared Goff and you'd have to go long-term with Nate Sudfeld, or let's say you had to go a game or two with Nate Sudfeld, could the Lions still get things done? Perhaps. That offensive line, I think that's the thing that allows the Lions to be able to do just about anything, because an offensive line is so good. And I think that they've upgraded the running back room significantly over last year. Not just a little bit, but I think significantly. with the home run hitter in Jahmyr Gibbs and steady play from David Montgomery. I really like those two. And could the Lions lean on the running game and the offensive line for any length of time if the starting quarterback were to get hurt? I think they could, but it's my 51% says yes, they could. Not totally convinced on that. To me, it comes down to money. How much money are you looking at with Sudfeld? How much is he going to cost? Would you still have some money left over in case someone gets waived or there's some more contract issue with somebody else? Does another position make sense for this team? I think all that has to be weighed out before you make an offer. I don't know if the Lions have made an offer or not. It seemed like months ago they did. And are they revisiting that? And have the terms of that offer changed? I don't know. That's going to be interesting to find out for sure.